Hey friends, it's Mike. It's Saturday, March 4th, 2023. And with this video, I think that we have a final answer on the date of February 21st, 2023, which shows up in Memoirs. For those of you that follow my work or have read the book, we have wondered what is the significance of that day and why is it in the book? What does it mean to Billy? And so I received some information from a source of mine who is well versed in the occult, and I do believe that they have solved the puzzle and it goes back to Rome. Now, I did do two presentations on the date. The first one goes back to April of 2021, which is almost 2 years ago. It's amazing how quickly time flies. The title of the presentation, and I will put the link down below in the description box if you're interested, Does Paul McCartney Time Out on February 21st of 2023? And in that presentation, I asked two questions with regard to that date. Did February 21st of 2023 represent when Billy would pass away? Now remember, this was 2 years ago, so I was projecting out to future state. Or did the date signify when his, quote, contract with Paul McCartney would be fulfilled? And this is within the context of the book and the narrative around this date. So for those of you who have read Memoirs or follow my work, we know that Billy claims that he has this otherworldly spiritual connection to biological Paul's soul and spirit, and that they inhabit the same physical body, the body of William or Billy. And this is actually depicted on the McCartney 2 album cover, where we have Billy's head in the center of the album cover, and then there's two shadows, one to his left and one to his right. And those shadows represent biological Paul McCartney and himself as William. Now, with regard to the date being the day when he would pass away, I did not put a lot of weight behind that because I have long held that I believe Billy's age when he passes is going to be tied to the nines because of how important the number 9 is in his role of playing Paul McCartney. So as an example, he would pass away at the age of 90 because 9 plus 0 equals 9. So that was the first presentation. And again, the link will be down below in the description box. Then I did a second presentation on the date, and that goes back to this past December. And the title of the presentation is Billy Shear's Shrove Tuesday and Crowley's Aeon of Horus. Now, when I did the April 2021 presentation, I was unaware that February 21st of 2023 was Shrove Tuesday. And I received that information from an astute subscriber who made a comment on my YouTube channel. So I took a look at Shrove Tuesday. And Shrove Tuesday is the day before Ash Wednesday, and it is observed in many Christian countries through participating in confession and absolution. So that got me wondering whether Billy was looking to be absolved from something, and that something, of course, would be the deception of playing Paul McCartney. So that was one thought that I had, and that's one of the scenarios that I presented in the December 2022 video. The second scenario had to do with looking at the numerology around the date of February 21st of this year. And without getting into great detail, you can watch the presentation again if you'd like. I'll put the link down below because it's very involved. But the number of days between January 1st and February 21st of 2023 reduces to the number 7. And the number 7 represents perfection and enlightenment. And if I took that same number of days and I counted backwards from 12/31 of this year and moved forward, that brought us to November 9th of 2023. And of course, November 9th is a 9/11 encoded date. So we had 2 sevens, which were essentially bookends. And between February 21st and November 9th of 2023, the number of days in between those two dates reduced to the number 9. And the reason why the numerology concerned me or raised an eyebrow is because I've got the double sevens. And even though 7 is representative of perfection and enlightenment, the controllers will do ugly things in order to achieve, in their minds, that perfection and enlightenment. So as an example, we had the 7/7 UK bombings, Flight 77 from September 11th. I don't want to get too much into this because YouTube might yank the video. The numbers also played into this premise that Billy is in this role of Horus, the savior god. And we're told in Memoirs that biological Paul has the role of Osiris. And between the two of them, they have reenacted the Osiris-Horus ritual. All things going back to Egypt, right? But again, I don't want to get too much into that because that is not what this video is about. If you're interested in that connection, then I will leave a link down below to my presentation, Billy Shear's Shrove Tuesday and Crowley's Eon of Horus, and you can take a listen. Now, with all of this being said, the date is important to Billy. And the question is, why? And so let's move to slide number 2, and let's take in the information I received from my source. Okay, so let's learn a little bit about the Roman festival Feralia. The date of February 21st, 2023, and this is coming to us from my source in the Memoirs, is referring to Ovid's Fasti, Book 2, 21 February, the Feralia, which is the celebration of the Roman Manes. Now, Ovid was a Roman poet who lived during the reign of Augustus. Feralia is an ancient Roman public festival celebrating the Manes, which refers to Roman spirits of the dead or souls of deceased individuals, which fell on February 21st, as recorded by Ovid in Book 2 of his Fasti. February 21st marked the end of Parentalia, a 9-day festival which ran between February 13th and the 21st, honoring dead ancestors. Roman citizens were instructed to bring offerings to the tombs of their dead ancestors, which consisted of at least an arrangement of wreaths, a sprinkling of grain and a bit of salt, bread soaked in wine, and violets scattered about. Ovid tells of a time when Romans, in the midst of war, neglected Feralia, which prompted the spirits of the departed to rise from their graves in anger, howling and roaming the streets. After this event, tribute to the tombs were then made, and the ghastly hauntings ceased. And then in the yellow box, I asked some questions. Did Billy engage in a festival or a ritual between February 13th through the 21st, which would be Feralia, which spanned 9 days, there's the number 9, to honor the deceased Paul McCartney? By not honoring the deceased Paul McCartney, would Billy be, quote, haunted by the continuation of the attachment? In other words, Billy would not be able to release. And then my third question, did the ritual fulfill Billy's spiritual contract with Paul McCartney and release him from any binding obligations in playing the role of Paul McCartney? In other words, Billy was absolved or free of responsibility, and this would point back to Shrove Tuesday. And my last question, does this mean that Billy is now free to be William as he moves closer to passing away? So if I had to guess, and I think it's a good guess, this is exactly what February 21st means in Memoirs. It's about the festival of Feralia, where you honor deceased ancestors. And I'm thinking that through their occultism, that they could make that connection as biological Paul and Billy as ancestors through this premise that Paul has the role of Osiris and Billy has the role of Horus. So if they're reenacting that ritual, then Osiris and Horus were father and son. So there's the ancestral connection. I know, folks, that this sounds crazy, but this whole thing is crazy. But again, I do believe that the February 21st date in Memoirs is all about the festival of Feralia. And there's always an occult underpinning to this stuff. Always. Okay, so there you go. That's the information I received in. I think it's good information. If nothing else, it's extremely educational. So the comment section is open, and let me know what you guys and gals think. Have a great evening, and we'll talk soon.